as our planting season winds down, and we probably aren't going to do too much else after, July 1st or so until maybe December. We have to think about what our strategy is for going into next season. What's going to be different? What's going to stay the same? Where is our focus going to be? Instead of saying, I hope this happens, I hope that happens, yada yada, I will say that we had or have a nice plan for wetland zone 1. There are things there or that were planned, like American persimmons, grafted ones, that seems to be very hard to get here in the south. Look at the turmeric come up. I thought this might have been ginger, but now that I see it, this is the cooking turmeric or whatever, the orange, what they make the orange powder and stuff with. It's in the ginger family. There are ginger plants there. Anyway, before I get too much into the American persimmons and stuff, we'll talk about the plans that we had for like wetland zone 1. We're still on track for trying to get the plants and stuff to finish up that area. Need to get spice bush, and couple, holly, Yupon hollies, or however you pronounce it, which is a caffeinated tea holly, and yerba mate. And obviously we've did videos about things that we already have that need to be planted out, that are in containers and stuff. And I did a video earlier today about paws, and it might seem like a bleak video saying, okay, we've been in this 20 years, we haven't had the successes yet that we've wanted and that we need to produce more seedling plants, the hand pollinating, breeding, and selecting of good plants, trees for this area that'll get their chill hours, that'll produce fruit, well for everybody. Pretty much everything that we plan for that area, though, is we're going to try to make happen, whether it takes a year, 2 years, or whatever. I mean, we don't want to work on it forever, but yeah, that's been our big focus, I guess, over the last several months, is to work on that area. Probably one reason why that area is so important is because our land is mostly wetlands. So getting like subtropical plants in a non-subtropical place, finding these microclimates in heavy shade that actually like or are okay with wet soil or slightly raised soil in those areas, like blueberries or whatever, that's an important step of trying to make this type of land work. If you asked me a year or two ago if mulberries would be on my radar again, I probably would have said, I don't think so. I don't have plans for that kind of stuff. But then I had kids and they love the mulberries. And I've seen permaculture gardens that use these mulberries, and there's just something about them. And connecting with people will kind of reinvigorate your love or whatever for gardening, trying to experiment and doing fruit trees and all that stuff. And maybe just out of pure stubbornness, I'm trying apple trees again. I've tried them before. My dad grew some that got kind of diseased, and he ended up chopping his apple trees down. I grew some, including in a super wet area, that got some kind of a powdery mildew or fungus or something, and just over a period of like 5 or 7 years, it just eventually tore the tree up so much, that all of its vigor and stuff, and it just couldn't take it anymore. But it did produce apples without a pollinator. It was an Anna. And now that I have like hawthorn mayhaw suckers everywhere, they're at least somewhat compatible with medlars, other hawthorns, some apples, some pears. So we could also, retry Chinese hawthorns and Azarolle hawthorns, red and yellow or gold, on this different rootstock that is suited for swampy areas. Now that I don't have goats, doing Chinese mulberries is a possibility. We can retry them again. The goats attacked the male and female Che a few years ago, seemed to have killed them. One of them is coming back. Don't know if it's the male or female. And you can root Che, but I think it's seriously like bushy and root suckerish if you don't graft it onto Osage orange. So getting something like that and grafting, trying to get to propagate it and test it out more, those are things that I consider a big possibility now because we don't have the goats. So I would say tying up all loose ends, or whatever you call it, whatever you want to say, finishing up what we've started. All these projects will be part of the next couple of years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But also grafting and experimenting more with grafting and persimmons, American persimmons, Asian persimmons, grafting hawthorns, and different things onto hawthorn rootstocks. And we had medlars here one time. They just, we were on a certain rootstock. We can try them on something like a root sucker of hawthorn. These are all just, it might take a while to get something to be a decent size for a graft, but that one's plenty big enough. This guy here low, see right there, there's 2 big trunks there for 2 grafts. And if you get small grafting wood, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are root suckers everywhere here. There's root suckers. And you can actually transplant these root suckers as long as you take enough root material and baby them for a year or 2. So, but yeah, moving forward, we can't really get American grafted persimmons easily here or for a decent price, but we can get grafting material and we can get seedlings or seeds. If we got seeds, we'll have to cold stratify them, hope they sprout, and then grow them out for probably 2 years before they're suitable for grafting. You may be able to get rootstock size plants as well that are ready to graft, or maybe yearlings where you grow them out for a year. But if we can have successes doing grafting persimmons and grafting different apples and pears and stuff, that's going to save a lot of money, and that's probably going to be one of our goals going forward, is finishing up what we started, getting new materials through scion wood or grafting wood and seedlings or rootstocks. Maybe dabble a little bit into some of the larger buried elderberries, Marge, York, Bob Gordon, and I'm not sure what else we're going to go into. These are just ideas that have popped into my head recently. You never know what's going to happen a year or 2 years from now. Things could change, stop abruptly, or we could just go all out for, and just go hog wild on everything. Just experiment with this, experiment with that. If someone would have told me that I would be more, interested in doing like more Suriname cherries, I wouldn't even thought about it. But it's a good idea, in my opinion, to plant out more Suriname cherry trees, and instead of having one, that produces, so many, only so many every year, have 15 or 20 or 30, and if somebody would have told me I'd be trying, Cattleya guavas, lemon, strawberry again, after I had them for a few years and they died, I'd probably say, no, I'm not interested in it. But looking through these permaculture gardens and stuff and seeing that, shade and being under oak canopies and stuff like that creates like a micro climate that protects them from the cold or somewhat. And if anybody ever said I'd be trying jaboticabas, I probably would say, why would I try a zone 10 plant and, a zone 9A, which has had 8A weather in it in my lifetime, and it's probably had like 7A or 7B weather over the last 60 or 70 years. Things have obviously heated up with the climate change or global warming or whatever you want to call it. But I still fear that we could have a 8B, winter one day. All right, take care. I'm sure I'll expand on these ideas later and get a more clear and concise plan. For the most part, we're just finishing up June and then start planning again in December.